Now please join me in welcoming Danielle Deadwyler and Antonia Blyth.
Welcome, welcome, Danielle. What a lovely reception.
That's so lovely.
So
Thank y'all
well.
for being here.
So well deserved. What a beautiful film, don't you think? Wasn't it just, I mean... And I just want to congratulate you on your Independent Spirit nomination.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Such great news. I was not surprised remotely. So first of all, maybe we could start off if you could just tell us about coming to the project and what did August Wilson's work mean to you? I believe that you had been connected to it, been reading it since middle school.
Yeah. It's just my Atlanta life and child rearing was rooted in black arts. The city was rich with it during the 80s and the 90s. And theatrically, Kenny Leon, the Alliance Theater, those were monumental staples in the city for me and for folks who were, working in various capacities, be it visual art or the theater arts or dance or whatnot. And so it's just been in my life for that long. The people who are, theater mentors, OGs, for me are folks who did his works, who did August Wilson's works. Kenny Leon was a major collaborator with August Wilson, and so it's just been my rearing artistically. I remember seeing Seven Guitars on Broadway in middle school. I remember seeing Gem of the Ocean, like in my late teens or the early 20s. I remember coming to all of the readings or reading the different readings of various plays or reading the plays on my own. So it's just been there. And the people who were doing this work were teaching me how to be the kind of actor that I feel that that I am today, in elevating anything that you do. That's what I've been taught. And so those are the people who were doing that kind of work.
Tell us about actually coming to this project, connecting with Malcolm. It's unbelievably his first feature that he's directed, which is just incredible. How did you come on board and what was that meeting like?
He also was nominated for Independent Spirit Award
He
today
was,
too.
yeah.
So excited for my guy. He's the first Washington I met. We sat down on Zoom and had a really, really just rich conversation about art, about readings that we were into, music, not even digging wholly into the play or the adaptation that he and Virgil co-wrote together. It just clicked. It's like finding a twin, an artistic twin, and that's how we worked super closely in finding and developing Bernice's arc, talking deeply about spirituality and moving from Black American Christianity into West African spirituality and thinking about everything in between, how hoodoo is being crafted in the spiritual as well as the cultural landscape of the American South. We talked a lot about erotic life, and that being influenced by me reading Zora Neale Hurston's letters at the time of us first coming together and talking about the film, and so we just dived deep in that together. And I just, traditionally the way some stuff comes to you, my team is like, hey, we got this piece. We can't talk to you about it right now, but it's you kind of might want to do it, right? And I say, I kind of might want to, you're right. And then you have these meetings to see if you click, and if you do click, it's just sublime, right? Because this is one of the most richly beautiful, supreme experiences I've ever had working on a production and working with a group of artists. So
I love that you say that. You gave our Deadline columnist, Baz Bamingboy, an interview, and you explained in that interview how it had become like a family.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a film so literally about family. But there you are in the middle of the Washington family. And I mean, there's Denzel producing and John David and Malcolm together. Can you describe what it was like to be just enveloped in this family, in that setting, in this story of family?
Oh, it's just to be cloaked in love, right? And to be offered the space to do what you do. I think that everybody was given that opportunity. All of the guys coming from having done the Broadway play in 22 and 23, and myself and Corey coming on for the film version, the film train rather, a leg of it with Lil Skylar who plays Maritha. They just, I think the confidence is in knowing that you can do what you do, and so there is no, the leadership and the courage and the bravery and the responsibility is all put into the director, and Denzel wasn't even there half the time, like more than half the time. Like he went off to go do what he was doing because the trust is instilled in everybody because we've all been brought together to do what we do, to have that discipline, that rigor, that reverence for August's work. You want to do your best, and I think I'm completely like blinders on to over prepare and just be completely engulfed in the making of the work. That was the experience. That was the experience. Yeah.
So I know that Malcolm had gone home to his grandparents' house and he had found a photograph of his grandmother when she was 4 years old, and he had brought that to the set to be woven into the production design, and he encouraged all the actors to find family photographs. What was that experience like for you, and how did it help you?
Oh, it just connects you. It roots you. It's. What do you do when you have a plant and you put it in the water and you're trying to see the roots come out so that you can therein go plant it? It's like that. And so I sent rather my maternal grandparents, Johnny Lou and Freddie Gordon. I sent them in to him, and you come on set and you're just about to work, and in the production design is your family, and you're working, and all of a sudden, we're rehearsing, about to do this, laying down the blocking for the scene, and you go, oh, there they are. It's just the loveliest surprise and remembrance of why you're doing what you're doing, because you are connecting. This is a very spiritual experience, not just in thematics, right, of the work. It's literal. It's overwhelming. It's you understand the infinite nature of what you are doing. You're calling towards yours. You're calling towards everybody who's in collaboration and who has this artistic family together, because his family, the Washington's family, is carved onto the literal piano that is in the production design, and so it's personal. It's deeply, deeply personal.
So just to reiterate what you said, the carvings are taken from the Washington's own family.
Yes, their own family.
That's extraordinary. Mm-hmm. That must have just felt so supportive of what you were doing in the film.
Oh yeah, it's real. It's emotional. It overpowers you, and the piano therein becomes a true portal, not just for the Bernice and Boy Willie, but for everybody who is engaging in the making of the work. The piano just takes up so much space. It is the other main character in the room, in the play, in the screenplay. It is doing all of that. It has this energy to it, and it's just magnifying off of it. You can feel the waves, right? It's commanding you to behave in a certain way. It's like the big mama in the room, except it's a bunch of wood, and it's calling you to have a respect for it, and to have a reverence for it and allow it. And then it's shifting and changing you in the midst of the making of the film, in the midst of whatever inner turmoil or becoming that you're having.
Now, we know you're no stranger to telling very rich historical stories. We all saw your beautiful work in Till. Um, and I just wondered, what kind of reading or preparation or sort of physical embodying of that time did you do in preparation to convey Bernice's experience in that era?
Yeah, so I was an African American history major. Woo woo. And so
Weren't you almost an academic?
I was on the path.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like 2 seconds from getting into a doctoral program, and then they were like, nope, and I was like, no. And then I went to teach for 2 years, and then I said something's missing, and then I went back and said, this thing that I've always been doing since I was a child was not a part of my daily life the way I had known it to be. And so I went back to theater, and it just has been rolling ever since. But yeah, what was the question again?
I'm sorry, that was my fault. I
was like,
distracted you.
we started swerving and pivoting.
No, I was asking what kind of prep did you do? Yeah.
Preparation. The Zora Neale Hurston letters were critical in the moment of beginning to prepare for this. I was just thinking about her as a woman of the time who is living a life out loud, which is very much a contrast to Bernice's experience. She is making a reverse forward drive, swerve around migratory, experience in this great migration period. So she's going to the South, coming back from the South, writing about the South, performing about the South, pedestalizing the language of Black folks in the American South, actually practicing different spiritualities and researching them. And she's in the Caribbean, she's in the American South. She's doing all of this, really rich living and artistic development for herself. And I was thinking about how Bernice is not having that particular experience, but could be inspired by it. How Bernice is in the midst of, she's having a migration. She's having a great migration for a lot of different reasons. It's a forced kind of migration in that, she can't stay in Mississippi any longer because, the loss of a husband, who knows what more, Jim Crowism and whatnot will do to her in that space. So she does make this upwardly mobile movement, but is still stagnant and yet is instilling in Maritha certain qualities of life. And so I'm using Zora Neale Hurston to inform the power tension that Bernice has and is living through. So we dug on Zora a lot. And just me knowing African American history at that time, really fusing all of that information, the African spiritualities, thinking about Flash of the Spirit and how that informs the hint, glints and clues to the spirituality as practiced in the home. Ones that Bernice may not know, like thinking about the haint blue in the house, right? And how that's a protective color that's a part of Black homes, specifically thinking about South Carolina. Or the candle is, the white candle is what, you light in West African spiritualities, rooted from Yoruba, to connect to ancestral energies and whatnot. These are all things that, I'm sure Zora Neale Hurston knows. I'm sure that are part of Bernice's experience that she doesn't know where they come from, even though, because she's so connected to the loss that she witnessed in the way that her mother lived her last few years, and the way that she has been forced to engage with the piano. And yet there is, the desire to not live that kind of life, but also not confronting the grief amidst that. So fusing all of those things is what went into historically developing her, as well as, emotionally crafting who she was.
Something the film does so beautifully is we feel haunted. We feel like all of the people are haunted and none of them are speaking about this haunting. Yeah. Only the daughter character is the one that sees the ghost, talks about the ghost, but then Sam Jackson's character Doka has also been communing with the spirits, but there's no communication between the family about this haunting, and it weighs heavy on everybody. So I really found that really interesting. How did you work with the other actors to create this kind of sense of shared, I suppose, the sense of being haunted by these ghosts together?
Yeah, I think we did exactly what they do in the film, not talk. Really? Well, strangely enough, I mean, that's a thing that I think generationally there's a chasm, right? Like, I remember my grandma not wanting to go back to things, not wanting to detail certain stuff. But when somebody did start talking, she's like, ho, let me check you real quick, you know? I don't want to talk about it, but I don't want you to mess it up, right? So, I mean, it's kind of that. I think it's so funny you say that, because she is the person who articulates the challenge, and yet none of the guys are having that conversation about it. I mean, even when you think about them having singing the song Berta Berta about Parchment, they're not talking about it. They are creatively releasing, in the same way that I think spirituality is a creative release too. And so the guys and I think we all did our kind of like hyper individual work, rigorous over preparing, and came with our own knowledge to and let that tension sit in the way that the relationships were being built. Because if you're over discussing that kind of toggling amongst each other, the silences, which are very much a language, not just the beautiful language that August has crafted, that might not be as easily witnessable if we're overly discussing it. So, in thinking about Black family life, Black cultural life, there is a tension in things not being immediately discussed, and so I think that served us in crafting the family dynamic.
But at the same time, the relationship that you have with John David's character is so sibling. We can feel all the things unsaid and the history between them and the closeness, but also this fractious, the way they talk to each other is of people who really know each other.
I love torturing him. It's so fun.
How did you build that? How did you torture him?
Oh gosh, he came in so sweetly and just like, "Oh, hey Danielle, I'm so excited to work for you," and I just butchered him. It's just being playful. I think we just brought that level of curiosity and love and joy. And if you make somebody cake, you can get them to do whatever you want them to do. And so that's what I did.
So something that really struck me, I mean, I remember walking out of the theatre seeing this, just going, oh, how did she do that? And what I mean by that is not only how did you play the role, but also how did Bernice command a room full of men who thought they weren't listening to her. But she's like this powerful but quiet presence. She doesn't even say that much. A lot of the time, it's just her presence. And I just thought, I'm taking notes because I want to know how to command a room in this way. So can you speak about how you did that?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. I think that's a learned thing in thinking about Black matriarchs, how critical they are as the foundations of family. How they can just look at you with one kind of a cutting eye and make you sit down or make you go get them their water or turn that TV off or take your butt back outside because I told you to stay out there. Or they are the vessels for so much history because they do so much labor. This is what Bernice is articulating very much so is the amount of labor that she is, performing, that she is wielding, is tired of, is weighted down by. And I think that, the men know that. The men contend with that. And it is a source. She is the one who is deeply connected to her mother, and the challenge of the grief. They both lost their father. There was no funeral. They both lost their mother, but Boy Willie was never present for that either. And so she's got a certain weight from all of that knowledge and the loss of Crowley, and just having the knowledge about the family, having that kind of that rooted connective tissue. She is the vessel that has to have that conversation. She is the one that has to help encourage everybody to come into the space and to be affected. I think that's what Black matriarchs do. They are a portal. The piano is a portal in one way. They are the living portal for so much information.
That's such a beautiful way to put it. The moment where the spirits of the family come around the piano is it's just an incredibly moving, extraordinary moment. How do you feel watching that now?
Oh, emotional. Right. I look at glimmers and side effects, and I just let me go mind my business because I'll cry and mess up my makeup or something. But it's I don't remember a whole lot. It's actually a moment of learning because I don't recall those several days of filming that scene. But I do remember it being a completely different shift of energy when all of those actors began to come in and to place their hands and to just be present. I know that there was some kind of other energy happening naturally. Like we were filmed in Atlanta, not far from my home, and the weather was doing all kind of wild stuff. All kinds of like lightning and which can shut down a production, but we were inside, and so according to rules, if you're inside, you can keep going. But the movement was happening within us. The movement is happening in the land, literally in our space, and so it was a powerful shift in all of us in the making of the work. And I remember at the time. At some point, Harry Belafonte passed. Malcolm brought in his speaker because he's a man of music and vibes, and he played Deo, right? And you think about Deo. Deo's about labor. It's about one wanting to, be regarded for what they have done, and I think that that is the same thing in those moments, to be regarded for what you have done and what you are helping the living to do.
What do you think that Bernice has left you with? What have you taken from her?
I think balance is critical in building an authentic life, a rich, erotic life. Erotic being the vital life force that you have in living loudly, in being affected loudly, and sexually for that matter, because that's the thing that she is surprised to come to via those two relationships with Avery and with Lyman. There is something hybridic that has to begin to sprout from you. And so I'm beginning to employ this. There is something traditional that we have to connect to, that is something long-lived. And then there's something new that you are supposed to behold and become and be surprised by. And those things coalesce to make the unique you and what you're supposed to offer to the world.
What a wonderful speaker that you are. I mean, it's just, I'm bowled over by all of the things that you've said. It's just so beautiful. And I really appreciate you being here today to talk about the piano lesson. Everybody, Danielle Deadwyler.
Thank you all. Such a pleasure.
Thank you.